Welcome, Bob. It's been a long time, nearly 7 years since the last episode of Educated by the Internet was published and sent out. Now, that hasn't been the end of our discussions, our shenanigans, our online gameplay, or even just chilling, going to football games. What has happened in the last 7 years? What's going on?
Some would say when life gives you lemons, you go on a 7-year hiatus and spend time with family, friends. Me, I got laid off in the past year and a half. I'm glad to hear you're still going strong. The economy's killing me, man. Yeah. Other than that, video games, that Undisputed that came out has been my number one. Boxing has been going crazy lately. Deontay Wilder, man, right hooks, whatever. You need to get that game. I'm telling you, that's going to be super fun.
So is Undisputed, is that a UFC game or is it like a general fighting game?
Oh, bro, this is a man's game. You don't play boxing, but you can on PS5 now and on Xbox. It's amazing. But I'm happy that they left Logan and the other Paul brother out of there because they're not real boxers in my opinion. But save that for another podcast.
So it's a boxing game.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So then I imagine, which company puts it out? Is it a single like fight promoter that is tied to the game, or is it generally the fighters have to sign up to a license to participate in it?
You know what? I'm not entirely sure who makes it. I'm gonna look it up right now. As a matter of fact,
because I'm really curious, right? Because you think about it with NFL games, NBA games, hockey games, there's a player association that negotiates a contract with the developer as far as compensation for a name and likeness. But when you're dealing with fighting, every one of those fighters is like an independent contractor, right?
Dude, boxing is just so screwed and messed up. They don't have a union. You get killed, like what? How do they compensate their families other than people have the generosity of their hearts and whatever else? The manufacturer of the game is Steel City Interactive. I don't think I've ever played a game by Steel City.
I don't think I've ever heard of that studio.
You can tell it's the beta though, and that's what I like. There's going to be a lot of.
It's not a full release.
No, it might be. I mean, and if it is, there's way more they can add to it in the future, and that's why, in my opinion, it's pretty much a beta because the knockdowns, like the combinations are great, the punching mechanics are great. It's very realistic, but the knockdowns, if you knock someone down in the ropes, no matter what, they're getting up in the middle of the ring. Like, come on, man! I knocked you down in the ropes. I want to see you use some turnbuckles to get your ass up. Mm-hmm. You're not crawling to the middle of the ring every time. But other than that, like the cuts over the eye, holy shit, realistic as hell, man.
So what's the mechanics like? Like, is it just general like fighting game mechanics, or is it a lot with like movement? Like you can only do certain punches or certain side steps based on like the spatial positioning of the fighters.
Exactly what you just said. So side steps are important in boxing in real life, right? If you can get out of the way of the jab, side step to the left or the right, you got an open shot to the body, open shot to the head. It's beautiful. It's almost like Fight Night. If you remember that. Do you remember Fight Night?
Vaguely. I don't remember any gameplay, but I vaguely remember Fight Night.
If anybody who plays it that has any kind of experience in just hitting someone, you have to be a professional boxer. You could just be decent at defending yourself in the past. If you know how to hit someone when there's a window, you're going to be really good at this game. It's the best, most fluent boxing game I've played in the past 20 years.
So it's all timing based.
Absolutely.
Is there any visual cue that tells you like when you should be activating a button to deliver a punch, or is it you feel?
Yeah, when a nigga puts his hands down, that's when you hit him in the head. And then when the nigga puts his hands in his face, that's when you hit him right in the rib. Barbecue chicken, that shit.
You know how some games will implement like a bullet time or slow motion briefly like effect to like insinuate like this is where you press the A button or smash the A button or whatever.
So they have that, but for this one, it's when you're we'll call it the pre-knockout phase, and when you're just doze and floating to the rope, then it'll slow down, but it won't give you any combination of controller buttons to push. It'll just be you either close out or you don't, and half the time they block it. But you have to, like I said, if you know how to lull people to sleep in real life, like you don't always want to. Most people want to throw the hardest shot, a haymaker to someone's head, right? Would you agree with that in most street fights? That's not how you win street.
That's how you get gassed. Yeah, that's how you get gassed, and then you get knocked out.
So if you're patient and you don't mind, if you put your hands up, right, like block your ear. You're going to get hit in the arm. It's going to hurt, but it saves you to throw a punch to be effective on the person in defending yourself and as a defensive fighter. And that's what I really love about this game, because I felt like when I was younger, I was a defensive fighter. I never threw a first punch on anybody. Never in my life. I might have instigated the fuck out of it. That's another thing. I never threw the first punch. And getting out of the way when someone throws that haymaker, man, it's like a 3-second window you have to just knock someone's block off. You know it. You've done it. I've seen it.
This is kind of a great segue into the upcoming, I wouldn't say like big cultural fight, but it's very, on the forefront of, the internet age or the young adult culture with the Mike Tyson and the Paul brother. Logan is the older one, right? But Jake is the more proficient boxer. Is the
Jake
fight
is
with
a
Jake?
steroid user.
They're probably both on steroids.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the fight's with Jake Paul. I think it's in Dallas on November 17th, somewhere around that. I hope he gets knocked out, Jake Paul. I really do.
I really love to see Mike Tyson get knocked out.
Do you remember when we were kids, DP? And if you beat up an old man, you didn't get street cred for that. You just got beat up.
Dude, it depends. It depends. Did you give that old man like at least 2 times to walk away from the fight?
If he instigated it, that's one thing for sure. He gets 2 KFC's open all day on that shit. But if he, I remember my dad telling me he was out and about and some young guy just tried to check him and he's just walking. And this guy's 70 years old. What do you have to gain? And do you feel like a man when you check someone who's on his way out? Because it used to be like you get the biggest guy, you know?
He was probably with his homies, so it's all about ego and street cred.
Well, little does he know that my dad would have shot him right in the chest.
Would have Ricky Pearsalled him?
He don't fight no more. Once you get old, it's no more fighting.
In all honesty, I don't even think it's going to be a real competition. It'll be mostly like an exhibition, kind of like all of Floyd Mayweather's recent fights, right? Mike Tyson's not taking a fight unless he knows he can do it. And even when he started accepting these fights, do you remember maybe a couple of years ago when he was on Joe Rogan podcast and he was really out of shape and he had put his fight life behind him and he had told Joe, he can't work out because if he works out, he's going to weaken the beast or something to that effect.
He's going to get that ego back, yeah.
And then he accepted that exhibition fight and
against Roy Jones Jr., yeah.
His body changed within like a matter of months. And is he in his 60s now or just late 50s?
58.
Yeah, so late 50s. Man just transforms his body back to like peak athlete in a matter of months. Like your body doesn't forget. And he's a way more experienced and technical fighter than Jake's going to be. Jake's younger, cool. I doubt he's got a stronger jaw. And I doubt he's got the technical ability to actually take out Mike Tyson.
I agree 100%. I do think the Jake Paul can box. I just don't
that's
think
100%.
He beat me, but I ain't saying shit. I'm also an old man that he's fighting again. But as far as Mike Tyson goes, you can't train against somebody who came from nothing and had everything and then had nothing again and then had everything again. Dude, it's almost like I try and tell one of my homies' kids, well, one of my homies, not his kid. His kid got in a fight, and I said, well, he lost the fight. And I said, does he know how to hit? And he's never been in a fight. The other kid, not to put anyone on blast, comes from an abusive household and gets hit by his dad all the time. He knows what it's like, what it feels like to get hit by a man. Mm-hmm. The other kid has no idea what it's like to get hit by a man. I mean, I look at, it's maybe a bad analogy, but I look at it this way for the Jake Paul-Mike Tyson fight. Mike Tyson knows what it feels like to be hit by a man. Jake Paul knows what it's like to get hit by an MMA fighter. And I'm not saying an MMA fighter doesn't hit like hard, but the structure in the punch is completely different. Do they throw with their hips? Do they turn with their hips? Is it a solid punch, or are they trying to set up the kick neck, or maybe a choke out? There's so many things that go into MMA that take away from all the strength in the punch. In my opinion, when you got boxing, man, it's just shit. I really think this kid's gonna get hurt and bad. I hope it's not fixed too.
I don't think anyone's gonna get hurt bad. I mean, let's call it what it is. Like, this is really the Paul brothers have been pretty forthright with this, but it's about the money, right? That's why Jake's not trying to box competitively. It's entertainment, and it's going to draw a lot of eyes. It's going to make each party a lot of money, and it'll be a fun thing to watch. But I don't think anyone's going to really get hurt.
How much do you think they're going to make for that?
millions,
At least 200 million, huh?
tens of, I don't know about 200 million. That's kind of, I bet you at least 100 million, and I don't know what the split is, but I bet you Mike Tyson's on the higher side of that
Yeah,
split.
he's going to be on the 100 million side because Mayweather's fights, not recently, he's making a lot of money still too, but the McGregor fight, I think he made well over 200 million when McGregor got like 80 or maybe, can't remember what he got, maybe 30. But when you're fucking with people like Mike Tyson and Floyd Mayweather, you have to give them the majority of that purse because no one's going to watch it unless they're there.
Yeah, and I wouldn't really like compare the purse of the McGregor Mayweather fight to this one because McGregor was at the peak of the UFC at the time.
That's fair.
They're both professionals versus this is a kid who, yes, was a wrestler in high school, has athleticism, has been boxing for 3 years now, but that's not what this is. The audience is different. There was real fight enthusiasts watching the Mayweather McGregor fight. This is going to be a bunch of 20 to 30, 40-year-old people, really no interest in fight sports, but, is interested in the
YouTubers.
cultural moment. Yeah. They'll be all over YouTube.
Truthfully, I don't know, man. Like Logan Paul, that's not even his name. Jake Paul, they're all the same to me. It doesn't matter. But is this going to mean like a Disney star is going to be a badass? Like, I don't know if I can believe that. Because look at Orlando Brown. He's not a badass.
I think objectively, Jake Paul is a badass. I mean, he's going to beat the shit out of the average male.
I mean this 100%. If I could go back 15 years and train, I think I would kick that kid's ass without steroids. And only because I wouldn't try and knock him out. I got a 6'4" wingspan. I just break his fucking nose with jabs over and over again. Promise you this.
I think that's wishful thinking. He's a natural athlete and a very large human being naturally.
He's well over 230 right now.
How tall is Jake? I'm guessing maybe 6'2", 6'3".
Yeah, he's at least that. Yeah, I'd say so. I'm just worried about him if he wins. Like I told you, our generation, that wasn't a cool thing to do, was beat up old men. And it's one thing to beat up fucking Ben Askren or Anderson Silva, but if you beat up Mike Tyson, are you going to be able to walk out the stadium comfortable? I think motherfuckers would be pretty mad about that, especially older heads.
So here's the tale of the tape. Jake Paul is 6'1", 225. Mike Tyson is 5'10", 224. So metrics wise, they're pretty close to each other. Now, obviously, Mike has an aging body.
And the age gap of fucking 30 years or whatever it was.
Yep, but he's like three inches shorter and about the same weight.
Would you say that's an advantage to be shorter as a fighter?
Not too short, but in this fight in particular, with Mike having the smaller wingspan or range, he's going to be able to get inside and just eat up Jake.
Like, I just wear the body out.
Just because Jake has a greater reach, I don't think that's going to give him any major advantage against such an experienced fighter.
All we can do is hope he gets knocked the fuck out and gets a nice slice of humble pie.
Speaking of getting knocked the fuck out, Tua is supposed to make his NFL return this weekend.
Why? Worry about your life, man. He gets knocked out, but like getting groceries. Like, it's time to just hang him up, man. Who's their backup? Tyler Huntley?
Yeah, but he got injured too. I don't know if he's available this weekend, but they had like multiple backups get injured as well.
My God.
That Dolphins team fell apart once Tua went down.
Overnight. And, well, I wish him the best, regardless of the concussions. I think people forget that he fucked up his hip and shouldn't have played in the first place out of college, Yeah,
Bama.
And, yeah, so at this point, it's not even the concussions. It's just like, do you want to be able to, like, run down the street with your kids when they're 7 years old and play soccer? Coming from someone who's had his fair share of brain injuries, man, when you fall and you can't get up, that shit is pretty, you can't fake it. You can't, when your body doesn't work and you can't function.
I think it's kind of a mixed bag, right? Because on one hand, I understand why everyone's like, he should retire. In all honesty, I kind of agree with that position, but I do understand from his point of view, right? You spent your whole life playing a single sport. You've been in the league only a handful of years. Yes, you've made millions of dollars, and you transitioned to a different career based off of your limited playing years. But he's got a large family. I know family is pretty central to Pacific Islander communities, and he's probably thinking about like, I get another contract, that's another 120, 150 million for not just my immediate family, but my extended family. He's talking about like generational wealth, and we all die. If
True.
CT fucking ruins him at 50 years old, I mean, that he's going to have years 25 to 50 in a way more comfortable, luxurious lifestyle than any of us will ever see. So
That's the 50-50, isn't it? You can make the money and provide for your family. I mean, I guess it's not too different than ancient times when you got to go out and provide for your family and kill a damn liger and a saber-toothed tiger. You know what I mean?
well, it wasn't even that. It was, trying to go kill a hog and hope you don't get fucking killed by
Yeah.
like a saber-tooth tiger.
And a minor cut would be staph infection or a severe infection, and you died from that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I could see that. But I'd rather see him healthy than looking like Richard Pryor in his last years, or go out like Junior Seau, I mean, send him to the Canadian Football League. They barely hit over there. They apologize. Sorry, eh?
Have you, I know you've been watching week to week, so what did you think about this week's episode of Agatha?
Okay, I'm going to start this off by saying I've thought that this woman has been amazingly beautiful since Step Brothers talking about putting balls in her vagina and whatever else. That being said, I think it's just one of the better shows on Disney Plus since WandaVision came out. And it might be better than WandaVision. The storytelling in the last episode was great. The way it started was amazing with her thinking she was a detective. It almost felt like a true detective.
It was actually like a direct parody of Mayor of Easttown, like the miniseries with Kate Winslet on HBO. I don't know if you've seen it. I watched it when it came out, so I knew immediately what they were calling back to.
It was just good, man. And the way they shoot it, the Seven Witches of Salem are eerie and terrifying as hell. The musical soundtracks are great. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to end it. I think the next episode is next week. But I know them introducing Aubrey Plaza's death, that really got me hooked for the next episode. Because when they showed her on the Witch's Trail, I was fucking terrified. She had like what was it, like a skull mask or something?
Well, it was pretty dark. They didn't even linger on that scene too long for you to get a good look at it. What really impressed me about this last episode was the writing and the storytelling and how they chose to portray, I can't remember what the older remaining witch, the tarot card reader, the traditional like gypsy character, how she spent her entire life experiencing her life through like a non-linear version of time, right?
Yeah, not flashbacks, but like flash-ins almost.
Well, yeah. I mean, the whole idea concept is that time was not linear, and that your entity, who you're being, your spirit, whatever you want to call it, experiences all of its existence at once. And her brain, for whatever reason, couldn't keep track of where it's like a cursor, right? Like whether playing music or playing another piece of media, the cursor kept jumping. It wasn't playing linear, like on a linear plane through time. And I thought the story was great. The writing was great. The resolution was great. The fact that she was on a journey and had to find the things that she was missing. It was the community, it wasn't the power. The writing was great. And a lot of times they've been dropping the ball with the Marvel franchises, especially with the TV shows, with the exception of Loki. I think Loki's by far been the best Marvel TV series for Disney Plus. But I've been really impressed with Agatha. When it was announced years ago, I was like, that's gonna be dumb. This is another money grab. They're just trying to do another spinoff. But no, it's been great. And Catherine Hahn's been really great. Been really impressed not only with her acting, but like her ability to carry a show. Because for the most part, like I'm sure she's done some stuff as like a lead, but she's mostly like a supporting actress.
I watched a show of hers on Hulu that I only gave it the time of day because she was the star of it, and it wasn't for me. It was like she played like a tortured mom who gave up her kid or something like that. I didn't even make it past 2 episodes. Everybody makes something that isn't for everybody. I loved how in the last episode of Agatha, when she had her flash-ins she would come back, who told you this? Who told you that? And you did. And then after a while, she just accepted it, didn't argue with her anymore. Just the comedic timing is really good for that show. And I just don't know how they're going to top it. I hope they give her a movie off of this, or at least like incorporate her into the MCU for like the movie and give her something, because she's too talented to not be in the movie at this point.
I just don't know how they would do that. I'm sure they have an idea. Maybe she has some kind of change of heart and stops being so nefarious and evil and becomes like a mentor to Scarlet Witch's kids. Because
Is that his kid though? Is that the Scarlet Witch's kid? Is that Billy Maximoff?
Yes, it's definitely Billy Maximoff.
I did not like, personally, I thought it was going to be, I don't know who the hell it is. I thought they were going to keep trying to steer us in a direction where they were going to lead it to be one of her kids, one of the twins. And then I'm still kind of leaning on that fence. I don't think it's Billy Maximoff yet.
This is not an ad placement. This is simply me bragging that Colorado is not dumb like California and doesn't ban flavored nicotine pouches.
And it's a struggle, whether they think so or not. That shit is a struggle. Not okay.
So, kind of rounding back to the intro of the show, educated by the internet. How did that even come to be? Like, what was the inspiration to launch the podcast in the first place?
I think the inspiration was just wanting to get that's including me, 3 of my closest friends and a friend that I'm not friends with anymore by happenstance, just an opportunity to talk from being miles apart, and just checking in, trying to stay together as far as like a family, and it's hard to do when you have distance and time between you and age and everything else. But, for the most part, I think we did a good job of that. Life happens, and that's unfortunate, but the ones that are supposed to be with you, they remain with you, and the other people, doesn't make them bad or anything else like that. It's just, they're just not supposed to be there anymore.
Yeah, for sure. I think I kind of got brought in after you guys had started recording a few episodes, just because I was in a huge transition, professionally at that time. But it was a great way to give us a reason to get together every week, right? So with me in Colorado and, we got a guy in Connecticut, and then even with the 2 in California, there's still like, several hundred miles between the 2 of you guys. You don't see each other multiple times a year, I think it's a great way of maintaining those relationships. And not only that, but like creating an environment to invite other people into that circle, into that group, right? Because I think
Yes, sir.
as you grow older in life and you start to lose those relatively menial connections, hanging out with people at the skate park or playing pickup basketball at the rec center,
House parties.
as you lose those like menial community, get-togethers, you stop interacting with people. And I think through podcasting, especially for me, I've been a heavy podcast listener for over a decade now. I always interpret it as an opportunity for me to hang out with people while I'm, doing some dumb tasks, raking leaves, cleaning the garage, driving to work. And those are the podcasts I enjoy, the ones that seem more like the group is inviting you to be a part of their, just hang out,
Absolutely. And I missed it. And I missed being able to do this with you and just be able to talk about the random bullshit that goes on in the world. I'm pissed that we got started late, so we couldn't do the Kendrick and Drake beat, man. Like, that would have been amazing. Even some of the new movies that came out. Like, it would have been awesome to do Oppenheimer, just like a little review.
Dune 2.
But we're here now, and we're going to be able to do it in the future. So I'm excited for that. And
no better timing to get the kinks out than right now, with what we anticipate to be a very busy beginning to 2025 with Kendrick at the Super Bowl and, what everyone is predicting to be another album rollout at the beginning of the year. So we'll have our go.
Who won the beef, in your opinion? Drake?
There's no question who won the beef. The
Drake,
fans. The fans won.
See what you did there. the fans definitely won. No one's gonna stop listening to Drake, and no one's gonna stop listening to Kendrick. But fuck Drake right now. Kendrick's about to kill that motherfucker at that Super Bowl, dude. Real shit, he's about to kill it.
Even with that sentiment that the fans won, like Drake took a L. Like that's undoubtedly what happened. You see it, the criticism of Drake and the moves that he's making since the beef. People are highly critical of him, and he's kind of floundering, man. Like he hasn't
I
released
don't think
anything that's
light
been
skinned
pretty good.
niggas can take an L.
You're light skin. I'm light skin.
And we haven't taken L's yet. I'm just saying. So maybe Drake's just chilling. But I think his halftime performance is going to be great. And if Lil Wayne didn't come out and, well, it wasn't really Wayne bitching about not getting it. He made a statement
No,
because
it was
everyone
Wayne
else
too.
did.
It was Wayne too. Wayne did that whole podcast where he was crying.
After everyone else came out with it. But
after everybody gassed him up.
That, yeah, he got gassed up for it for sure. If he didn't do that, I think he probably would have been at the Super Bowl with Kendrick performing. But you kind of make your own bed when you start whining like a bitch. I don't know. They just started doing rap for the Super Bowl, and you expect it to be a hometown performer every single time? Like, does it make sense?
I don't understand why after the LA Super Bowl with Dre and Kendrick and Snoop and Mary and 50 that everyone assumed like that was the new protocol. Like every Super Bowl, every location, they'll do something for like a hometown hip hop artist, but that's never been the case, ever.
And then who's to say? And I'm not talking about as a rapper. I'm talking about as a successful businessman. Is Lil Wayne as successful as Dr. Dre?
No.
So it makes more sense to put Dr. Dre in the LA Super Bowl. I'm just saying.
It's more than that. This was the LA Super Bowl was the first Super Bowl played in SoFi Stadium when it just opened in Inglewood. So you got a brand new football stadium in Inglewood, which is being gentrified. There's money coming in. Things are looking up. Like of course you're going to bring out a bunch of, South Central artists.
And for the casual fan, I don't think they'll understand a word of what Lil Wayne. Yeah, that would be the whole halftime show. At least Kendrick's gonna give you pronunciation on a syllable and a nice performance, like a nice visual performance. The dude's an artist in almost every level with that. I'll take that over that.
And like Wayne has had issues recalling his lyrics in live performances as of late. On top of his medical issues that, everyone's vaguely aware of.
Gotta start writing shit down.
I wasn't surprised at all, and I actually think it's kind of weird that people were bitching in the first place. Like, New Orleans ain't that hot. Like, if this was the 90s, if, Cash Money was doing their thing still, and fucking No Limit was still big, like this, it's not 1994,
Thank you. As soon as I heard people bitching about Lil Wayne not getting it, first thing I said, what about Master P? Mm-hmm. Master P deserves to be there too. What about Master P? Doesn't make sense.
What would have been interesting is because Frank Ocean's from New Orleans.
I could see him performing with Kendrick.
I could see that too. I could see Frank Ocean coming out.
I could see that easy.
Have you seen any of the new rollout stuff from Tyler?
I've been reading about it. I saw something on Apple News about it the other day, but no, I haven't. It was like him dressed up as like a crazy looking black dude with a wig on him.
Well, I know that your girl is into Tyler, so I'm like you should be vaguely aware of what's going on. But every album, there's like a theme, there's like a new character that's being introduced. So that mask and shit, that's just part of this album's narrative. But the point I'm trying to get to is he announced like some of the main features on this album. So it's gonna be Frank Ocean. There's going to be Kendrick Lamar, Lil Yachty. That's kind of like a throwaway, but I can't remember who the fourth big name that's going to be on this album. But you got Frank and Kendrick on a Tyler the Creator album. I'm sold.
People nowadays sleep on Frank Ocean, and it's because he doesn't like over, like, I don't know how to put it, over. He doesn't put out shit music every 2 seconds. That's just a layman's way to put it. He doesn't just give you a music you know what I mean? Like Drake does every day. It's just everyday random bullshit. Like, yeah, that's cool. I appreciate the content. The adult in me wants to hear something that's worth listening to, and that I can listen to from 1 second to 3:14. You know what I'm saying?
I actually don't think anyone's sleeping on him. I do think people are impatient at the rate that content is released these days, and they don't appreciate an artist like Frank that takes his time to give you something like a work of art every time he releases. So, I'm always checking for him, checking for whatever feature he's doing and whatnot, but I'm not rushing him. I don't have any fucking bias against a man that's taking his time to make a work of art because, like I told you, Blonde is in my top 10 albums of all time.
People got the same complaint about Kendrick too.
I
Oh,
do.
he comes out with an album every 2 years. Well, it's a great album every 2 years.
It's actually
Just
every
be
5 years. It's every 5 years.
But still, it's a great album every 5 years, and you can play it from start to finish, and that's unheard of. That's unheard of in 2024. TikTok samples and whatever the fuck else.
Had to adjust the lighting since the sun's going down.
It's getting sensual on here.
Hmm.
Getting nice and sensual. Can I say something real quick? I have to do a review on this. I recently watched Terrifier 3, and I thought that the first Terrifier completely revolutionized horror movies. I won't tell you how I'll go watch the movie. Second one, I think as things get popular, the production quality gets better, and it kind of takes away from the quirkiness and the corniness of the original movie, if you get what I'm saying. So then by the third one, you have a list of crazy amount of fans. I go to the theaters, everyone's dressed up. I don't remember seeing any of these guys in the first one, mind you. And the actual movie I'll talk about. I feel like the actual movie was a big fuck you to all the new fans. And I feel as if they did everything the opposite to say fuck you to those fans. And holy shit, does that not sound like something I would do? To just says fuck being conventional, man. Like, let's do something different. But they did, and I loved it. I didn't love the movie. I loved the statement. Don't go see Terrifier 3. It was shit. That's all I wanted to say.
So basically, you'd be like, fuck heteronormality. Let's fuck dudes.
Dude, it was... I mean, I did that in high school, though, if you remember. And then the rest of the world followed suit, but I'm straight again.
I don't cut bitches no more.
It was just bad. And, I think they just went for extra gruesome to be extra gruesome because the new fans were like, oh, man, it's amazing and yada, yada, yada. But it's not amazing. Terrible.
I've never seen any of the Terrifier movies. I did see some advertisements and a couple like YouTube shorts as the release was coming on, specifically just about the main like villain character. But I'm not really into horror that's kind of cartoony or just odd. I like more psychological or like even though I'm not religious based horror, just because it's more terrifying. I think the closer to reality that the horror can be, the more terrifying it is, if that makes sense. But the more cartoonish, like, while I love the It movies, the remake or the original, the fact that it's a clown, the fact that it's a little cartoonish takes away from how terrifying it is for me. So I like horror movies that are a little more psychological.
See that? And I think I'm starting to fall into that as I get older as well. Like I told you, I think maybe a week and a half ago, I watched one. And at the end, they cut the little girl's tongue out. She's like, shit. And it wasn't terrifying, but it was like it hits home and it hits like personal strings at that point. Like you want to keep your kids safe and you tell them that they're safe when they're with you. And then someone grabs them from you and then cuts their tongue. Pretty shitty feeling, I imagine. You know?
Yeah.
I got to remember the name of that movie. Don't watch it. It makes you feel pretty bad.
Did you see Hereditary?
Is that with the woman that's in the Steve Carell movie, Little Miss Sunshine?
Yes.
Juliet, I can't remember her name. Juliet
Yeah.
something.
Mm-hmm. She's the mom.
Yeah, that's not a bad movie.
It's a A24 production. They also did Midsummer, which I thought was a great horror movie too, with Florence Pugh, the British actress.
A24 is I don't know if stat wise, but for me, they're like the number one horror place now. They do Maxine, Pearl, fucking X. They got a lot of stuff out there right now, man.
Yeah. They also did Everything Everywhere All at Once, which cleaned up,
I had no idea. That was a great movie.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was going to be a sleeper too. It was surprised the hell out of me. Who's that actress that played that woman?
In what?
in Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Shit, if you hadn't have asked me, I might have been able to recall it. But she's been in a lot of stuff. She's been in Hollywood since like the early '80s, and like starting off in like Chinese kung fu movies because she's like a real martial artist. But she's like really broken out over the course of the last 5 years. Did you ever watch that Amazon Prime sci-fi show? I can't remember what it was called. It was basically about like humans leaving Earth and colonizing the outer belt and Mars and different factions and just like
What?
the political
How old is it?
conflicts. I think the last season aired maybe a year ago, but I think it's over now. I think they only did 4 seasons. Can't remember what it's called, but if I recall it, I'll shoot it to you.
I can't remember the last show I watched on Amazon Prime. I think it was Goliath with Billy Bob.
I don't
Maybe
think I don't think I watched Goliath.
people say I look like Billy Bob.
The Expanse. That's what it's called.
Man, I have to check that out. It's on like what astro? It's on an asteroid belt. That they.
No, it's all throughout space.
I was watching Donald Trump today at McDonald's in a drive-through window, serving fries to a Brazilian woman, and I thought to myself, I can get
That's my
behind this.
president.
I like that. That's my president. This man cares about the people.
I don't think there's like a great candidate for me, but I'm probably gonna end up voting for Trump just because I can't vote for Kamala.
You got niggas in the street voting for Kamala like she promised them some pussy or something, and that's ridiculous. They ain't getting no pussy from Kamala. What simps? Men are grown ass men these days.
I don't like curry anyway.
Nobody like her. Just chicken. Unless it's chicken. I don't know. I'm probably not going to vote this year. I'm not. I respect someone who can call me a nigger to my face, so I dig that about Trump. I can't. I don't think Kamala is any better. I just don't. This is almost like Biden and Trump all over again.
I'm going with the lesser of two evils, and I think one is going to do better for the economy than the other. And right now, with inflation and everything's going up, like we got to get this economy back to pre-COVID conditions when we had low interest rates and
Can
things
that
are
happen?
relatively cheap. It can. Um, it's not going to happen quickly, but it can.
I missed the entertainment factor when Trump was in office. Everything was, you know what I mean?
Oh, it's just for the lulls.
Daily Show was better. SNL was better. Every comedic purposes, everything was better. Oh, some of the nation being on fire wasn't that great, but can't prove that was Trump or not. So,
I mean, the nation wasn't on fire during the Trump presidency until COVID.
yeah, it's true. COVID made people lose their damn minds. And we might be in for another COVID soon. Who knows?
And those were the final days. You know,
Sounds prophetic. Like before Jesus came back. Honestly, that would be, what if Jesus did come back and we're left behind right now? And COVID was the time.
that was a weak ass fucking plague. Then
Only killed a few million.
I had COVID like twice.
We probably had it like 5 or 6 times by now, dude. We just don't even go to the doctors about it anymore. Take some NyQuil, you're good to go. That shit almost killed me the first time I got it. I stopped breathing.
That wasn't the COVID. That was the syphilis.
No, the syphilis is dormant, but the COVID, I was at work and I was walking down the hall, and all of a sudden I just, when you're trying to breathe and that there's no air going in, and I was like, what's going on here? And then I started spinning, and that was the end. That was the end for me. I thought I was out. Felt like I was having fucking sewing needles every time I shivered going through my body. That was the worst pain I think I've ever experienced. I did not enjoy that.
It was worse
What
than
did
the
you?
Prince Albert.
It was worse than the Prince Albert, and it was worse than competing for throat goat. That really fucked up my throat.
Your voice was never the same.
I can't sing anymore. Took away my melodies. But asked me if I won.
Did you win?
No. Didn't even come close. But I had a partition growth.
Well, we've surpassed the 40-minute mark on this first test run of the podcast. I think we could probably kill the recording now. What do you think?
Kill it. We appreciate you guys listening to us and getting back into the mix with us again. We'll get our feet back. We'll get our sea leg.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. The one person, probably me, on repeat as I critique what the audio sounds like and how we can improve the show. I'll probably tally up some views for us. But yeah, thank you. We'll be back.